Let's build an e-commerce application with ChatGPT. Let's first look at the application we are going to build. This will be an e-commerce application with a limited feature set. There is a login screen whereby you can type username, password, and when you hit login, that should take you to a product listing page where you can browse through various products available for sale. And when you click on a product name, that would take you to an order placement screen where you can add quantity of the product you want to order and hit place order. And this will be an end-to-end working application with a database, services, and web pages. The application will run on a Tomcat server with servlets, JSP pages, and various Java objects. The RDBMS database would be SQLite. So I have a Tomcat server running on my machine at port 8080 and an empty e-commerce application deployed. It just has a landing page. The IDE we are going to use is Visual Studio Code. And here I have an empty web application setup with just a landing page. And this is the Tomcat server that's running on my machine. And it will host our web application on port 8080. For the database, we are going to use SQLite, which is a lightweight RDBMS. And this is the client application for it called DB Browser for SQLite. Let's go to ChatGPT now. We are logged into ChatGPT here. Let's type our first prompt. I need to create an e-commerce web application using Java, Servlets, JSP, HTML, JavaScript, SQL with user login, products, and orders functionality. Can you generate code for this web application? Waiting for the response now. Certainly, I can provide you with a basic structure for your e-commerce web application using Java, Servlets, etc. So it goes on to show us what database tables we need. So there is a users, product, and orders table along with the attributes needed. Then the Java POJO classes. So there is user.java, product.java, and order.java with the necessary attributes. Then data access object classes. Actually, these are interfaces. So user DAO, product DAO, and order DAO with methods that need to be implemented. Then the structure of the implementation classes. User DAO IMPL, product DAO IMPL, and order DAO IMPL. And then a servlets, login servlet, product servlet, and order servlet. And then we have JSP files. That's the login.jsp file. So it's going to have a form with the username password. Okay. And a submit button. So then we have products.jsp, which will list out all the products. You can see that this is a partial code. And then we have order.jsp, which has the order placement form that has quantity and submit button. So just a basic structure for us to use. So here it says, please note that this is just a basic structure and you will need to implement the methods in DAO classes to interact with database, etc. And remember to set up your development environment, including a servlet container. So we have already done that with Apache Tomcat. Okay, let us scroll up and go back to the section where we had database related SQL statements. So essentially create table statements. Let's copy that and come to the SQLite client, and here we will be executing those SQLs to create the necessary tables. So let's paste that and select all of them and hit execute. So there is a syntax error at auto underscore increment. It should be one word here, auto increment without the underscore. So let's make that correction. Okay. And run these SQLs again. Data type should be integer instead of int. So we will correct the data type from int to integer for the ID column. And once done, we'll select all these SQLs and run again. And this time the execution is successful. So we can go to the tables section to check that these tables have been created correctly. Okay, now it's time to copy over rest of the Java classes from here to our project in the editor. So this would include the POJO classes, the DAO interfaces, DAO implementation classes, and so on, and also the JSPs. We'll start with user.java, hit copy code here, go to our editor, and in our web application project, under web inf classes, we create a new file and name it user.java. And here we will paste the user.java code that we have copied. Save it and then go back to ChatGPT, copy the code for product.java, create a new file and name it product.java and paste the code here. Okay. Now, while I copy all the rest of the code, I will pause the recording and then return. Okay. Now, all the code has been copied over. Here we have order, product, and user Java classes. Then we have DAO or data access object classes, DAO implementation classes, and the servlets. Most of these classes only have the structure, and we have to add the implementation. And these are the JSPs. Now, remember those user.java, product.java, and order.java. These classes do not have constructors and getter setter methods. So let us prompt ChatGPT. Generate complete implementation for the POJO classes above with import statement and getters and setters. Okay. So now here we see the user.java class implementation is being generated. This has all the getters and setters. Similarly, product.java, it has the necessary import statements, constructor, and the getters and setters. And finally, order.java with complete implementation. Now our user, product, and order Java classes are ready. Now we can copy over the updated user.java, product.java, and order.java to our IDE. So let's start with user.java and we select this file here and paste the code. I will pause the recording here while I copy over product.java and order.java as well. Okay, now that our POJO classes have been copied over and are ready, let's look at the DAO or data access object interfaces. In this order DAO, we need to import java.util.list. And in product DAO interface, here too, we will import the java.util.list. Okay, and our user DAO interface is good. Let's look at the DAO implementation classes. Order DAO impl.java. Here we need to implement the interface methods. Similarly, product DAO impl needs implementation. Now we need to implement the DAO impl classes. So we prompt ChatGPT with database we are using is SQLite generate complete implementation for DAO implementation classes with JDBC access. Okay, and let's wait for the response. All right, so here's the implementation. This is user DAO impl. So you can see that it is using a connection class and it has method get user by username implemented and add user method that's implemented. So next we have product DAO impl. It has get all products method. So you can see the SQL query there. Select star from products and the result set and exception handling. Then we have get products by ID, SQL query prepared statement, and so on. And then order DAO impl.java. uses a connection. There is an add order method with an insert into orders SQL statement. Let's continue generating. And here we have get orders by user ID. And there is an SQL statement for that. These implementation classes use JDBC. Use JDBC driver in your project. Okay, now it's time to copy over these updated DAO IMPL classes to our IDE. So let's start with user DAO impl.java. We select that file, select all, and paste. I will pause the recording here while I copy over product DAO impl.java and order DAO impl.java as well. Okay, now that our DAO IMPL classes have been copied over and are ready, let's look at the servlets. So the servlet Java files do not have the implementation. So we will go to ChatGPT and prompt it with generate complete implementation for the servlets. And ChatGPT remembers the context and starts generating the servlet code. So that is login servlet.java, and it uses the same data access object classes that it had generated earlier. And that's the do post method in login. Similarly, here we have product servlet. It uses the product DAO classes. And then we have the order servlet. Here it uses both order DAO and product DAO. We have a do get method and a do post method. So here it says that you will need to replace the initialization of the DAO objects with your actual implementation that connects to the SQL database using JDBC. So essentially we need to have a way of getting access to a database connection object and pass it to the DAO implementation classes via the constructor. So let's prompt ChatGPT to generate a connection provider. So here we will say generate a class that returns a database connection to SQLite using JDBC. So here's a class that provides a database connection to SQLite using JDBC. You can see the get connection method there, a static get connection method. So to use this class, call the get connection method. Here's an example usage. Okay, now we will prompt ChatGPT with regenerate the servlet code to use SQLite connection provider to get a database connection and pass it to DAO implementation while invoking it. So we want to use the get connection method from SQLite connection provider inside our servlets. So here's the updated code for the servlets. Look at the init method here. It gets hold of a connection and passes it to the user DAO IMPL via constructor. Similarly, it does the same thing here in the init method, and in order servlet, it gets hold of the connection and passes it to order DAO IMPL and product DAO IMPL via the constructors. So this is our updated servlet code. Okay, now we are ready to copy over the SQLite connection provider and servlet code to our IDE. So let's copy that SQLite connection provider.java, and here we will have to create this file SQLite connection provider.java and paste that code. Okay. Next, we can go to copy the code for login servlet.java and come back to our IDE and paste the entire code here. And here I will pause the recording while I copy over order servlet and product servlet.java. Now that all the servlet code has been copied over, let's take a quick look at order servlet.java. Here we need to add an import statement for java.sql.connection. In addition, if you look at the init method where we do SQLite connection provider.get connection, we need to add exception handling there. So let's go to ChatGPT and add a prompt here, add exception handling for connection in servlets and regenerate servlet code, right? So here's the updated login servlet.java. Take a look at the init method here. You can see there is a try catch block there. So that's good. And similarly in product servlet.java, we would have a try catch block added in the init method. So that's good. And we will have the similar update in order servlet.java. In the init method, we have a exception handling try catch block. Okay, and there will be no other changes. Okay, now it's time to copy over the updated servlet code. So we copy the order servlet.java and come to our IDE and paste the code here. I'll pause the recording here while I copy over the rest of the servlet code. Let's look at the SQLite connection provider class to make sure that the DB URL path is correct. The current JDBC URL path is a dummy one, so we will replace that and provide the correct path to our e-commerce database. Okay. In addition, the JDBC class or .sqlite.jdbc should be available in a jar. So in our lib directory, I have placed SQLite JDBC. Our JSP files are in the JSP directory. So in our servlets, our path to them should be correct. So here, instead of forwarding the request to products.jsp, it should be jsp/products.jsp. Similarly, let's look at login servlet. And here too, we make the same change for login.jsp. And in the login.jsp, the relative path for the action should be provided. Next, we prompt ChatGPT to generate some sample data for products table in the form of insert SQL statement. And here you can see the generated SQL statements. We are in SQLite client, and here we will add a user to the users table via this insert into users SQL statement. Here we have a user named John and password. So after executing, a row has been added to the users table. Now we will add some sample data to the products table. We'll select those SQLs and execute them. So those rows have been added. We'll do a quick check here. So that's the data in the users table, and that's the data in the products table. Okay, it's time to compile all the code and look at the results. So we will compile all the .java files in our classes directory, and that compiled successfully. Now let us make sure that our Tomcat server is running. All right, so that came up successfully. Now we'll go to the browser and access our URL for the e-commerce application, and there you see a basic login page. We'll make that UI better later, but for now let's just log in with the user we added earlier. Okay, that should work. And we are in the product listing page. However, we don't see any products, although we added them in a database. Let's check the products.jsp once. And here you can see that the implementation for products.jsp is not yet complete. So now we will prompt ChatGPT with generate complete implementation for products.jsp page to iterate over products and display each row. And here we see the updated products.jsp page. And here under T body, you can see the for each statement. There it's iterating over products, which it obtains from the servlet and so on. Okay, so now let's copy this products.jsp and go to our IDE. Okay, select and paste this here, save it, and now we can go to the browser and refresh this page, and there you see all the products are listed. In the products page, we should hyperlink the product name to the order page. So let's go to ChatGPT and add a prompt. Update products.jsp to hyperlink product name in product list to order servlet with product ID as parameter. And it generates an updated version of products.jsp, and we expect to see a hyperlink against the product name, and there you see there is a hyperlink against the product name with product ID as a parameter. So when a user clicks on product name, it will navigate to order servlet with product ID as parameter. So let's copy this code and go to our IDE, products.jsp, select all, paste, that's our hyperlink. Okay, it's pointing to the order servlet. And now if you refresh this web page, you can see that the product name is hyperlinked. So if you click on the product name, it should take you to the order page, but there is an error here. In order.jsp, product ID cannot be resolved to a variable. Okay, let's go to order.jsp and make a change here, okay, against the value. So we will replace that and pick up ID from the product object. Okay, now when we refresh products page and click on the hyperlink, the order page displays correctly. Okay, now we will try to place an order. We select product ID 3 and quantity 5 and hit place order. Select another product, let's say product 5, and add quantity, let's make that 10, and place an order. We will go to our database and check whether these orders have been placed. So in the orders table, you can see that against product ID 3 and 5, quantity 5 and 10 orders have been placed. Now that our basic functionality is working, it's time to improve the look and feel of various pages. So let's start with the login page. Here we will center the form. So in ChatGPT, in login.jsp, center the username password form, add h2 header tag with text e-commerce application, and use CSS where needed. So an updated version of login.jsp page is being generated, and you can see there's CSS added to it. And there is an additional h2 tag with the text e-commerce application. So ChatGPT is able to follow what we are saying, and it remembers the context. And here there is an explanation of what it has done. So good. Let's copy the updated JSP, copy code, and update this login.jsp, save it, and make sure that the login path is correct in the form action. Refresh the page, and that's the new look. This doesn't quite look right. We want to move the e-commerce application text to the top of the form. So in ChatGPT, in login.jsp, stack the h2 header and login form vertically by moving h2 header tag above the form. So we will get an updated login.jsp for that. ChatGPT is able to understand our language from our prompt, and it remembers which login.jsp we are talking of, and generates the updated code. There is an explanation of what changes it has made. Okay, now we can copy this code, hit that copy code, come back to our IDE and select all, paste the code, make sure that the action is correct, and save, and then go back to the browser, refresh. Now that looks better. Okay, let's make some more changes. In login.jsp, make the login form class background color as blue violet. So that will make the form look better. So the CSS for that would be updated here. So you can see in CSS background color blue violet against the login form. Okay, and that's the explanation of the change that has been made. And we can copy the code now. All right, hit copy code, go back to the IDE, paste that. Okay, make sure that our action is correct, save, and go back to the browser, refresh. Now let us log in to the application here. Username John and password, hit login button, and look at the products JSP page. The products list are at the top left. So let us center that. So here we type a prompt in products.jsp, center the header h1, product list table, add background color blue violet to table column headers, and an updated version of products.jsp is generated. I will pause the recording here while I copy over the generated code to our IDE and refresh the browser. This is what our products list page looks like. Still not good. So we tell that to ChatGPT. In products.jsp, the header h1 is not appearing above the table when page is rendered. Please fix that. And ChatGPT fixes that and generates this updated code. So we copy that code, go to our IDE, paste that code in products.jsp, save it, and refresh the browser. So this looks better. We will make some more changes. So in ChatGPT, we will write a prompt. In products.jsp, add padding between the table columns of 15 pixel and change description column to dark green. So that's our updated products.jsp. And here we will see the necessary changes. So you can already see there against TD padding of 15 pixel and against description color dark green. So there you see information on what changes have been done. We are going to copy this code, updated code, and go to our IDE, products.jsp page, paste, and save and refresh the browser. So now we will go to the order.jsp page and we will center these form elements in ChatGPT. In order.jsp, center the header h1 and form with header above the form. I'll pause the recording while I copy this code and save it in IDE. Now that our order form is centered, let's add product name and description here. And in the order.jsp, we will directly add those elements here. Now I will pause the recording here and take ChatGPT's help to align the form elements. So after alignment, this is what the order form looks like. Now we will try to make our user interface look a little better. So if you log in with the username password, our current UI looks like this, which is okay, but this could be better. So let's try to make this better than what it is. So in login.jsp under body, we will add a h1 header with the text eCommerce. And the h3 login tag, we will remove that, and we will leave the login word as ordinary text. Okay. Add a couple of new lines after that. And in addition, against the login form, we'll add some styles. Okay. And let's save this JSP and go back to our login screen and see the changes. So this is what our new login page looks like. Now we will make similar changes to product.jsp and order.jsp. So in product.jsp, again, under the body tag, we are going to add a header, h1 header with the text e-commerce, and against the dot container style, we're going to add some more style elements. And now let's log in and see what our products page looks like. So that's our products page. And now we will make similar changes to the order.jsp. Under the body tag, add a header with the text e-commerce, and then make some style changes against dot container. Add that, save. Now go to the order placement page. So we are done with all changes. So let's place a new order, quantity 199 against product 2. Hit place order. We come back to the product list screen. Go to the SQL client and check the orders table. Here we can see quantity 199 against product ID 2, and that's the new order. We could add a lot more functionality here, but this should give you a good idea on how to use ChatGPT to build an end-to-end application. So that was our application built using ChatGPT.